Hey, this is Cord, the Bombshell JKU, and you're listening to the Trailhead Podcast.
Hello, Trailheads, and welcome to the Trailhead. Before the trails start today, we need to have a short safety meeting. Off-roading is an exhilarating but inherently risky sport. The insights and opinions that are shared by our hosts and any experts or guests on the podcast are intended to inform and inspire, not replace professional guidance. The Trailhead guests, partners, and any sponsors are not liable for any actions that you take based on what you hear. It is your responsibility to seek professional advice and make informed decisions, especially when attempting potentially dangerous activities. Always check current trail conditions and comply with local laws and regulations. Off-roading requires careful preparation and respect for safety, so ensure that you're well prepared before hitting the trails. And now that that's out of the way, buckle up and let the stories begin.
Welcome to the Trailhead, where trails start and stories unfold.
One, two, three.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Now here's JD.
Welcome to the Trailhead. I am JD, and today we've got it's Cord, but you prefer CK, correct?
Either one, to be honest. Most people kind of stammer a little bit when they hear Cord. It catches them off guard. It's not a name they hear often, so they kind of usually pause and think about it. So either one works.
Okay, so CK was born of that. It wasn't born of like something else in your life.
You know, it was born out of convenience. Really, just the easiest way to not let Starbucks screw up my coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. So JD is obviously just the initials, and when I was young, my mom wanted me to use the initials JD. She wanted that to be my nickname. And then I got to first grade, and I told her I was too old for nicknames, and then I wanted to be called John. And then fast forward 35 years, and I'm moving to Colorado, and 4 or 5 people on the new team that I'm joining are all named John. I'm like, I guess I'm JD again, and here we are. So it's also of convenience, but born of parentals. So I don't know. It's close. It's close. It's awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate you coming on the show. You are known as on Instagram as Bombshell JKU, right?
Yes, yeah. More so by the Jeep itself, but yeah, I drive it. You know, I show up in the driver's seat from time to time.
I got to tell you, the posts that involve me or this face, they don't really do that well. It's always the Jeep. Always the Jeep does better than anything of me.
Yeah, I like to say I have a radio face. So
see, I'm with you on that. No, I don't. I'm not saying you have a radio face at all. No, I feel that too, and I've never been comfortable in front of camera. So every time somebody tells me, "Oh, you need to get more on your Instagram channel," I'm like, "Do I though? Like, do people really want to see this?" So,
I hear the same thing, and it's I even threw a post out the other week. Was I feel like I should talk to the camera more when it's actually in the rig with me, and it's like Ferris Bueller style or something. It just feels awkward. It doesn't feel natural.
I found that just turning the camera on and leaving it tends to be a little bit better and kind of treat it like a passenger. But the problem with that is that you end up with gigs worth of data of video, and then you have to try to cut out the good parts. And I don't have time for that anymore. I'm doing too much.
Yeah, and that's what the media team usually says to do too, is turn it on and just let it roll until we tell you to turn it off. And, then I'm looking at it going, oh, now I'm dancing in my seat sometimes, and I'm rambling, or I'm talking to somebody, or I get everything.
In your case, I would say go ahead and do it. You have a production team that can actually do that kind of stuff for you. So
exactly.
I would run with it, baby. Yeah. Just say I'll tell you what, I'll give you as much in-cab video as you want, as long as you can give me some good clips of myself.
Yeah. That's usually the questionable part, because what shows up in the video is kind of like, oh, really? They took that? Okay.
Well, there you go. That's why you got to ask for multiple versions. Like, so give me a few options. Don't just give me what you think is the best one. Yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, let's start with the basics, man. Like, how did you? You are in Scottsdale now, correct?
Still now, by way of the Portland, Oregon area, and prior to that, born in Central Coast, California, coastal town outside of Pismo Beach, the SLO area, and Dad wanted to get back to ranching roots from law enforcement and moved us to 10, 20 acres of filberts and walnuts. So we ended up with child labor. So,
I feel like anybody who grew up in any kind of a ranch situation probably has a claim of some kind.
Oh, I claim to hate filberts.
So you're a person who's gladly away from it then. You don't pine for the days of walnuts.
No, I love to get outdoors. I love to be outside. I loved the forest area that we had on the backside of the property. Tried to avoid the trees as much as possible and picking up nuts. That was terrible.
We all have our PTSDs from when we were kids, and that's it. So do you avoid those kinds of areas completely now when you're planning stuff? Or do you think, have you ever thought about it?
Not really. I mean, it's been forever since I've been back up to Oregon, to be honest. I mean, shoot, I think it was like maybe 2009, 2010 was the last time I was up there.
Damn, that was a while. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was actually kind of excited about trying to work in the Pacific Northwest Overland Expo too, and go out with some friends and kind of hang out there for a little while, because Redmond, Eastern Oregon is absolutely gorgeous. Reminds me a lot of like the high desert area here in Arizona. So, it's kind of the best of both worlds. It's Oregon, but it's not the Portland area. It's, it's kind of touching on the roots and Mount Bachelor and snowboarding days and all that fun stuff from college. And yeah, but unfortunately, it's just not going to work out for me.
It doesn't always.
No, I mean, it's a 40-hour round trip driving. It's terrible.
Some of those distances, I think once you get west of the Mississippi, some of those distances become multi-day trips just to get from places that have decent civilization.
Couldn't agree more. You'll notice that when you get to Denver, when you look east, it's millions of square miles of nothing going into Kansas.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
It was the hardest. So we moved here from Illinois, and it was the hardest. Just the hardest part of that drive was that straight line from Kansas and then just straight through, and you're just like, there's just nothing out here, and it's all straight. Yep. Oh, it's soul crushing. Yeah,
it is, and not a decent cup of coffee along
the way. No, I brought all the Mountain Dew with me, and it was just me and the dogs just plowing through. Just come on, let's do 85 miles an hour and hope we don't get pulled over. Yep. Oh, hey.
In Arizona, you can have that one for a freebie. 85 is just that's flow of traffic.
You know what? So in Chicago, I-65 is the high end. Like that's pretty much what you get. So coming out here in 75 was in Denver area was just kind of a nightmare. And you get used to it. And now you go into Utah, and I mean, my Jeep can get up there mostly. If the wind isn't too terrible. And I can deal with it now, but it was hard. It was a rough transition. And you see those people when they're coming in from the east, and you're like, oh, so this is your first time in the mountains then. Yep. This is your first time doing 75 miles an hour at a 15-degree incline. Okay.
Yep. Sure. I'll get there tomorrow.
Exactly. Well, yeah, that's a whole nother Jeep problem, right? And gearing unto itself. So how long have you been in Scottsdale now?
So I've been in Arizona itself for 22 years.
So a minute.
In the Phoenix, Scottsdale area for 20 of those years.
Okay. Nice. All right, then.
Absolutely love it. Wouldn't change it. Love the heat. Yeah, it's 108 according to the computer today. So,
I mean, there is that small issue. We were talking with Alyssa yesterday, and when I brought her up, I'm like, we should probably check in with you first in case you start melting on camera. Like, I couldn't deal with that kind of heat, man.
It's, you do get used to it. It is laughable. It is the dry heat, quote unquote. So when you explode, it's like dry flames. So no real mess.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's you do get used to it after a while. I mean, when I moved down in a '91 Acura Integra that I bought in Oregon. So it had no AC. It was dark blue, black interior.
Oh,
My first few friends that I met made like a little care package for me, which included the windshield screen. It was like, oh, awesome! This is the best thing since sliced bread. And I reached into the bag and I pulled out a pair of pot holders. And I'm like, okay, I cook, but what do I need pot holders for? They're like, wait till summer. You might need them for your steering wheel. Sure enough, the first day it was like 100 and miserable outside, and I grabbed a hold of that steering wheel. I could literally, they joke like PSC steering. You have like 2 fingers on the steering wheel, and that's all you need. No, that's literally all I could hold on to the steering wheel with. It was just so hot. It was terrible. I was like, okay, I got to get rid of this car. That car lasted about 3 months.
Nice. So is it all white vehicles now? Bombshell isn't white.
No, Bombshell's granite crystal, I think they call it. So it's like a metallic gray, which
Okay.
was funny enough not the color that I was going to pick. I liked the rhino color from that year, that 2017 year, and my wife actually talked me out of it. She's like, "You're not going to like that when you do all the armor and stuff with that." Okay, she has input too. We'll go with that. And actually, that's what people notice about the Jeep first, is that in the aluminum armor. So
yeah,
now it's kind of its own little calling card, and I don't dare mess with it because somebody's going to pitch a fit if I do, I bet.
yeah. Every once in a while, I get the inkling to like wrap mine, and it's a yellow Jeep, and it stands out. And then I get feedback immediately from multiple people. No, and then it's not going to look like you think. No, it takes away what it is. So I have to get a whole new Jeep apparently if I want a different color.
See, then it's like a whole other profile, and that's like another part-time job, and no, I'll pass.
And I can't. I got too many part-time jobs paying for the Jeep stuff now. Like it's a struggle bus all day, every day.
Well, I get it. I'm doing nights where I can over at the shop doing an engine swap on the Jeep right now. So I'm just trying to keep the labor down.
Oh, good Lord. It's not even drivable at the moment?
No, it's actually been over at Denton Racing for about a month and a half, 2 months now. So it was all part of the plan, all part of the build. I was swapping out big from a 3.6 to the 7-liter. 427.
Okay.
I wanted to go juice the horsepower. I want to go fast between the trails, and so it was just kind of the next evolution, and it'll be down for maybe another 3 or 4 weeks, and then I should have the keys back just in time to just really enjoy no top, no windows, and AC from the waist down.
I mean, seriously though, what if it's at 108 degrees now? What is it going to be there in a month?
I'm really hoping it's not going to be over 110. If it's in the 1 teens, I mean, honestly, when you pass 110, I've been here through 110 and 120. I've been overseas when I was in the military, and it was 147 or something like that on the flight line. After like 110, 115, it doesn't make a difference anymore. It's just hot. It's oppressive, hot that you don't want to be outside it.
Gotcha.
So you do exactly what you have to, and you cover yourself in water, or you sit by your pool with a cocktail that has an umbrella in it too.
That's where I'd be at. I as much as I love some of the trails, like I really want to go spend some time in the San Rafael Swell this summer, because there's all that stuff going on when it comes to the land management and the stuff with the Blue Ribbon Coalition, all that jazz. But honestly, I don't think that I could physically stand to be out there before September.
Yeah,
I think I would.
I mean, I'm gonna force myself for some trail time just so I can get used to the new handling and how the Jeep works. But it's gonna be kind of like what I absolutely have to at this point until. It's just.
Is there any kind of high altitude stuff near you that kind of gets up into a degree temperature change when you start getting up on it?
Yeah, but it's kind of. I'll be honest. It's kind of boring. It's
forest roads, fire roads. Yeah, no, it's all you could say it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's fire roads. I would have to get up towards Flagstaff, and even then during the summer months they can get into the 90s, which is kind of a different different version of heat. I mean, it's still the dry heat, but it's like you really feel like you are closer to the sun at that point with the elevation. Like
So
it's like this
it's a true
very,
phenomenon at a higher altitude.
yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you're going from like the convection oven to the broiler getting up there.
Yeah, there's so I'm here in Denver, just a little south of Castle Rock, north of Colorado Springs, and in the afternoon, especially, but just any time of the day, if it's sunny, it's immediately 10 degrees hotter. Everything is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My wife and I were actually just up in Golden for Memorial Weekend visiting some of family friends, and it was gorgeous. And as soon as a cloud would hit, it was even better. And then the cloud disappeared, and it was like, ooh, you can really feel every ray of sunshine.
Mm-hmm. It's I actually, so have you seen those clear lids, clear tops for the Jeeps? Kind of the panoramic top. Don't get me wrong, I liked it. We took it to Vegas once and had some great times with it. But I couldn't do it here in Colorado. The sun is just so harsh getting down on you all day. I'm like, I need something. I need to be able to cover myself.
I was gonna say that's got to have like a greenhouse effect to it.
Surprisingly, no, it didn't. It was just the fact that it was coming at you all day, every day. It didn't block anything. So, yeah,
and that's kind of what I was thinking. I've seen them. I haven't been inside of a Jeep that had one, and I was always kind of wondering, like, how warm does it get in there? Since there's there must be like a reflective quality. So,
yeah, to get off on a tangent real fast. I remember reading in the materials they sent out that it's the same crap they make like the airplane cockpit canopies out of.
Oh wow!
So whatever that material, it was expensive. That they had to justify what they charged me for it. So it better have been that stuff. And that's probably why. It probably has some sort of.
Yeah, it's because then I'm kind of thinking I'm either Tom Cruise or Iceman or something like that in the cockpit now.
And that's how you get into trouble.
Oh, good.
See, because I just watched that. We just watched that Maverick movie the other day, and I realize now I need at least a week before I go wheeling again, so I don't do something stupid. I know who I am.
Yeah. I mean, I got a good buddy who has on his dashboard. Remember, you have to drive it home, stupid.
That is a 100% true statement that we talk about it on the show on a regular basis because there's those of us like, do you trailer yours or no?
I do now. And
you do now?
That's my insurance policy. That's, I didn't want to put the sticker on the dashboard. I just, was like, nah, it's not really my style. So yeah, let's just do the trailer. And I started doing longer trips, to go see friends in Big Bear, to go see friends in Las Cruces in New Mexico. So it just made it way easier. Plus, not having a hard top on there, driving at 80 miles an hour for 6 hours. Yeah, my hearing's terrible to begin with. I wouldn't hear anything until I got there.
Yeah, I really want to go to Trail Hero later this year, and the one thing that sucks is that I won't be able to have the hard top off because I need it for the highway. I can't do it from here to there and back. So
yes, the Airbnbs and the VRBOs in the area, they are great about access to garages, so you can ditch the hard top as soon as you get there.
There's true. I could probably. I need to recruit like 4 people to help me because I can't lift that shit on my own.
You got my number now. Give me a call. I'll swing by.
All right.
Rip the hard top off. Easy peasy. I'll be there.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
I never miss.
I've been talked into. I think I've been talked into it this year. So we'll see. More to come on that one. I literally just booked or reserved a room, so we'll see how that goes. So I'm hoping. I think it's gonna pan out. I mean, for me, I think that the idea and the draw of kind of those. I don't want to call it a party event, but like Easter Jeep Safari isn't my vibe. Like Easter Jeep Safari feels much more of a vendor kind of a show, like a SEMA in the desert. Yeah. And I think Trail Hero is more communal.
Yeah. I love Moab. Moab has its place. I've been several times now that I've finished the Jeep, and it's not to be brash, but it's a cluster during EJS. I'd much rather go some other time of the year when there's nobody there and I can kind of just hit the trails as I want to with small groups or something like that. Trail Hero, I mean, the music fest that Rich Klein's added is pretty impressive. Plus, you've got 70, 80 some odd trails, and they're breaking new trails all the time. It's a almost a privatized area, so they don't have to go through the whole process of getting trails approved.
Right.
So like it takes minimal effort. So it's like, you have this spider web, literally a maze of trails everywhere.
Yeah.
You could start on the maze and you could, finish in West Rim, or you could start on Double Sammy and end up on 777s or whatever the new trail is that actually combines those two. And yeah, it's crazy, but
I feel like it's one of the more recent open OHV areas, and I think it's proximity to things, and because I think there's a lot of people who are kind of fed up with Moab, and a lot of not just the crowds, but their attitude towards off-roaders. I think they're just kind of like, you know what, I'd rather go to Hurricane, or I'd rather go to Vernal, or there's a lot of other places that I can go and spend my dollars at, while Jeep and Ford drive people all over, from their various training locations.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've soured on Moab the last year.
Not at all.
I don't have any kind of a bias towards it. No. It's not like I've been knee deep in some of these land use issues. Have been like, I can't believe. It's rough.
Blue Ribbon's doing an amazing job too of raising a lot of that I think the majority of the community just didn't know about, or didn't have access to, or
a little bit of both.
Outreach, we just didn't really see it. So I mean, I love seeing that pop up in my feed every single day.
Yeah, well, and they're making they're getting out to here. Like, we've had them on the show a couple times, and we have been on the show a couple times. Yeah, and so they're awesome, and we'll continue supporting them. So anyhow, I should get back to you though. So let's go back. You've got the JKU. What have you got done to it? What are you running, like tire sizes, stuff like that? And what's your kind of average that you're looking for in a trail? Are you a rock crawler? Do you consider yourself a rock crawler? Are you looking for the scenes? What are you looking for?
Oh man, I'm a little bit of all the above, to be honest. When it comes to the Jeep, maybe the easier list to give you is what's left that's actually Jeep, which is the frame and the body.
Okay, fair enough.
So
what's the top line stuff? Like, that people kind of look to, like your lift and tire size and kind of that stuff.
So actually, when I bought it, it was bought for a very specific purpose. I was immediately sending it off to Genrite for their elite build. So it's coilovers, it's 1 tons, it's a Super 60 up front and a 70 in the rear. 4-link double triangulated rear, 3-link triangulated front end. That's the majority of what was done. I mean, they cut off everything off the body, redid everything, towers and all that good stuff. From there, it turned into, the never-ending story, right? It turned into seats, harnesses, it turned into stereo.
Yeah.
I love my music. I've got to have tunes when I'm on the trail. And then, like I said, it just kind of boiled into this evolution of, the next step was more horsepower, more speed, maybe dial the suspension in for pre-running, because I do love to move. I do spend a lot of time in Johnson Valley running from trail to trail. So they have a lot of dense areas with trails, and then big open spaces of desert where you can just open it up and just let it rip, right? And you can just
cool
point to point.
Yeah.
So that's if I was to put myself into a style, it's somewhere between Baja and rock crawling, but that really just turns into Ultra 4. So but if you say Ultra 4 to somebody that's not really in the Jeeping community, they have no clue as to what you're talking about. So then you have to explain it. Yeah, it turns into this.
Well, and you're going to have to explain it, because you're going to assume that I don't know what it is, because I don't know what that is.
So Ultra 4 is a race series where they've taken various forms of vehicles. So you've got different classes, obviously, just like Formula 1, Formula 4, similar. So you've got Ultra 4, which is 4,500, 4,600, 4,700, 48, and 4,900. I think they dropped 46 or 4,700. So, and with each of those, you can do certain things to the suspension. So at the bare minimum, you can go to, I think it's like 35s and stock suspension, but you can tweak the engine, right? You've got to have pretty much 90% of the original platform, all the way into what they call casino cars, which are, tube chassis, race axles, tube coilovers with
kind of that buggy class.
Buggy class with 700 horsepower. So they
Jesus.
move, right? And they're running 40-inch tires. So, which is where I'm at too. I'm looking at bumping from 40s to 42s. And
So is everybody apparently. Yeah.
yeah, the 42 is the new 40 if we didn't know, right? And
By the way, whoever the marketing person is for Goodyear and Michelin that has convinced us all that we need bigger and bigger tires and convinces us, because the shift to the 42s now has been much faster than any other one.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. And there was so many companies that were working on it for the longest time, but they hadn't turned anything out. Case in point, one of my favorite brands, Mickey Thompson, they started developing their 42 like 3 years ago. You mentioned Goodyear. Goodyear came in after Cooper. Cooper acquired Mickey Thompson. Goodyear acquired that whole family, and they just wanted stricter quality controls on it, so it delayed it like another year. So it finally released in March of this year after 3 very long years of waiting. And now pretty much everybody's sold out. You can't get your hands on it. So even guys like me that have a connection with Mickey Thompson, I can't get my hands on them.
I imagine that's going to hold up for a while, probably through the end of the year too. If I don't feel like they're going to. Yeah.
So, but in the meantime, I'm going to dial it and cycle it in so it actually fits the 42s. And after that, it's the little tidbits. I mean, truth be told, I've joked with my other half and with friends about putting Spider 9 race axles underneath there, so I have access to a third member axle setup, and changing suspension again, cutting up the frame and changing suspension again to a tube and a triple or a quad bypass. And then I really can't go anywhere other than taking the frame apart, turning it into a tube chassis, which I'll probably be living in the car by that point if I do
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta pick your battles on that one at some point.
Yeah. But
what's your,
it's goals. I mean, honestly, the Jeep was 7 years in the making of savings and planning and building a sheet that I wanted. This is what I want to do. And then selling my LJ, had an accident in my Grand Cherokee got totaled, and that kind of funded the rest of the build. And here I am now, and I've been saving again for the last 5.5 years for this whole engine swap process.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's fun, but it isn't cheap.
No. I think, even those of us who I would say are in kind of the circles that we're in, where we, get evaluation things, and sometimes, companies send us stuff, like it's nice, it helps, but it is nowhere near the majority cost for most of us. It's most of it, almost all of it's coming out of pocket. So it's a struggle
that we really want, right? It's something that we really
exactly
ends up coming out of pocket. It's, I appreciate having connections and being able to use for, those perishables, right? U-joints, things like that, I know I'm going to tear them up over the course of time, and I need to replace them. So, hey, can you throw me $60 in U-joints? That'd be great.
Right. So what's out of all the stuff that you've gotten, you've done a lot of stuff to your Jeep at this point. What's your favorite upgrade? Like, when you sit back, you're like, that was the best money I spent for me?
That would have to be the suspension kit itself. That Elite kit. It brings in a nice low center of gravity, but it articulates phenomenally. In its current setup, or at least up till now, the only grievance I had with it was really my own doing. I didn't have the engine in it that it needed, because the coilovers were set up for the weight of a V8 versus a V6. But the suspension itself, I mean, it gets me through places with, when people even have what I would consider better suspensions. I'm keeping pace with those guys. I'm keeping pace with Ultra 4 cars. I'm keeping pace with, guys like Scott, Trail Reaper. And we have fun. We push each other, right? And especially, some of the builds that are coming out of Rockstar Garage and some of the team members that are there, I love keeping pace with these guys, because they will challenge my driving more than they'll challenge my car.
Nice. Have you met Pope, our host Pope?
Oh, no, I don't think I have.
Okay, Pope. So I think you and Pope are going to get along swimmingly. You'll run into him at Trail Hero then. He just swapped a 392 into his JT, and he's been learning how to redrive it since then. So
yeah, that's what I'm afraid of, as it's going to be a completely different.
Yeah, like he found out he had to keep it in second gear a lot of the time to keep it from overtaking him, and there's a whole learning curve of stuff. So, yeah, I think you guys will get along swimmingly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. Can't wait to meet you, Pope. This is gonna be a good one. So and that's one of those where, working with Ten Racing on this build was trying to figure out, my driving style versus the engine and the responsiveness that I'm gonna get out of it. And Adam and I have spent so many hours talking about, torque converter in particular. Was, is a 3600 too high for me with the way I drive? With the way I love to do technical crawling, it should keep me in check in first gear.
Yeah.
And it should still give me some flexibility to really get after it in between the trails. So, if it's too tall, in 6 months I rip it out, I put the 2400 in or something like that. We'll see. But I'm just.
And I apologize. Yeah, and I apologize. You said you had you had a Cherokee before, and you had, what was the other one?
An JL, or excuse me, an LJ.
An LJ. Okay. Did you do any kind of serious upgrading to any of those vehicles to kind of learn what you like to do on trails, or?
I did. It was baby Jeep. It had like a little stage 3 lift in it and 35s. It was a lot.
They don't knock the 35s.
I mean, it was great.
We're just as important.
Absolutely. And it's great company, right? Everybody loves company. And if you know anything about me, I've said it over and over again. I will wheel with anybody. It doesn't matter what the trail is, as long as it's good company. So kind of going back to that question that you asked about, do I love the rock crawling? Do I love the scenery? Do I love just being outside? It's C. I just love being outside with good people, having fun. I'm the kid that, like, my mom said I was the disciplinarian's worst nightmare, because she would systematically take things away from me as I'd get in trouble, to the point where I'd just sing to myself in the middle of my bedroom floor, and then I couldn't sing, so I would hum to myself in my head. And I was still entertaining myself, having a good time. It was impossible for her to get a message through that you're in trouble.
I believe most parents and teachers these days would refer to that as an undiagnosed ADHD.
Yeah, that's legit.
But you're amongst friends. I feel like all of us in the same space that I was just talking about a minute ago. The only way you could do this, what's your day job?
My day job, completely unrelated. I am nowhere near the Jeep or automotive community. I actually work in medicine. I work in clinical research. I have, over the years, I've kind of climbed the rungs, and I have a team of 18 clinical project managers now. So in the clinical,
good Lord.
So we manage, the company I work for manages phase 1 to phase 4 clinical trials. And I spend my time in oncology working on trying to hopefully find some curative processes out there.
Yeah, no, that's awesome though. You're doing, thank you. That's awesome work. I touched by that myself, so I appreciate that. No, but
it's not always the reception I get on that. Oh, you work for so?
Well, no, any kind of, in a clinical research thing, like, you're trying new drugs and you're doing those kinds of things. And, my mom died of cancer, and it's one of those things that I know that had she lived just a few more years, there were a whole bunch of treatments that she didn't have, that were then, and it's all those kinds of things. So the faster the folks like you to get to do that stuff and work out whether or not the stuff works, the better. So that's why I have that reaction to it.
No, well, thank you. And sorry for your loss on that one. I can completely appreciate that. My wife lost her mother 10 years ago to pancreatic cancer, and it wasn't but maybe 4 months later that one of the drugs I was actually working very closely on was approved for pancreatic cancer. And clinical trial time, she couldn't handle standard of care, so they couldn't put her into the clinical trial. So it was just an unfortunate scenario. And then seeing that come out, and seeing some of the long-term impact of that. One patient that was actually on the trial for almost 9 years, which is unheard of in pancreatic cancer. It's usually 9 months. So seeing that longevity come out of it's just impressive. So it's rewarding, but it's disappointing too, because about 85% of our trials fail. So they don't show anything.
But I mean, I think that's the big secret, that for a lot of these companies and a lot of these medicines, they're guessing.
Oh,
They're like, we think
yeah.
this might do something, so we got to try it out.
And they use the computer models, they get into animal modeling, and then they get into humans, and it's like, oh wow, this worked everywhere else, and this doesn't even touch anything in the human body. So then they have to go back and reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. It's yeah. All right. Well, thank you, though. I appreciate that. What's going on over there? Is somebody eating your leg?
Yeah, that's the boys, the whiskey boys, getting into a little WWF action.
Nice.
So I have Jameson the pointer circling around behind me, and Johnny Walker the Corthal's Griffin. The kid.
Those are amazing names.
So,
yeah, that's fantastic.
I'm to say the least, I'm a whiskey fan. So, but yeah, we had a theme going on with the dogs to begin with. We had a Brandy and a Morgan before that, so we're kind of like, let's just stick with the theme. These are easy names to work with.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I just ended up with Hades because Hades was a rescue and he was already named Hades. So I'm just like, well, Lord of the Underworld works for me. So
there you go.
It's a fun thing to yell out to the backyard. And so, yeah.
Just imagine my neighbors in my scenario, Jameson with Johnny Walker.
I mean, I hope you know your neighbors so that they're not calling the cops on you.
I know most of them.
There's some alcoholic out there just yelling for his alcohol. Somebody help him. That's amazing.
What is he doing with his wife? Jeez.
Yeah, no kidding. And I brought up the day job thing because, for a lot of us, and tell me if I'm wrong, but how do you balance, or rather, let me ask you this question. How do you balance your time frames? Because I know from my own personal experience and the work I do with Trails Off Road and with this podcast and with everything else, like all this stuff is my extracurricular, right? It's all stuff I'm supposed to be doing in my free time. I don't have a whole lot of free time in the first place. Oh. So I can only imagine how do you balance those two things?
So I guess I'm really fortunate. My MBA program, my last, actually one of my previous managers asked me, she says, what did you learn in your MBA program? It was time management. It was really how to master 24 hours. Better so than I had when I was in the military. And it's a pretty fixed time that I have with work, right? I work for the most part East Coast hours because I deal with teams globally. Most of my team is spread out between Canada and all the way into Argentina now. So it's pretty set within the time zones, but I meet with the UK often and Europe, and sometimes I have to meet with Japan. So, that'll take me into the evenings, but that's really just Monday through Friday these days. Cause it's like, even with an emergency, we have regulatory guidelines that say, how fast we have to respond. So it's, letting those things kind of do their job and then working with my team so they understand what, their role is. So that kind of makes the day job easier.
Nice.
Plus, I work from home, so, I, not to say it publicly, but of course, I can screw around on my phone while I'm in a meeting. I'm still listening, still paying attention, but I can post something or I can respond to something pretty easy. When it gets into like the travel for wheeling and stuff like that, I'm lucky. I've been with this company for 17 years. I have 6 weeks of vacation. Unfortunately, nice. my wife has 3. So I usually take those 3 extra weeks to go have fun, to go do
wheeling stuff.
Yeah, to do wheeling
That's
stuff.
Cool.
To attend some of the Great American Crawls, to go to Trail Hero, EJS, or Johnson Valley for King of the Hammers. Trail Hero and King of the Hammers. Those are like my 2 go-to events every year, and there's a week there. There's 5 days spent at each one of those. So that leaves me a week left to kind of screw around with the rest of the stuff. And then, families all over the place. You mentioned Illinois. I have family in the Chicago area, wife's family's down in Valparaiso, Indiana area, and then her twin sister's in Atlanta. So we split our times across these areas. And then, like I said, this year we went up to Denver just to go see the other side of her childhood friends. I mean, she's known this girl since she was 5, the 3 of them. And, we've seen them have kids, then get married. So yeah, do all the family stuff. So
next time
it's a balance. But yeah, dude, absolutely. I'll hit you up next time I'm in Denver.
Yeah. Just trailer that thing in. I got a court. Yeah. You can park it here.
Hey,
yeah.
Montrose back.
I won't go with you to Chicago though. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm
no.
done.
No. That's if I'm in Chicago, if I'm doing something for fun in Chicago, it's usually going to the museums, the Art
Okay.
Institute. I love to spend my time there and see what the exhibits are. I mean, I love art.
Yeah.
It's something that I have no talent doing. Glorious stick figures, I can do it, but that's about it.
I got very good at telling the AI how to create episode art for our show. So it's because I couldn't do it, and
I've been tempted to go into one of those AI ads and have it design my next tattoo. So it's
so I will another tangent here. I will tell you, it's a great place to bounce ideas and to get ideas. I use it for a lot of stuff, and it's probably the best $20 I spend on a month-to-month basis for the premium subscription.
It's probably the worst thing for me to have access to.
Well, I mean, it's not good for me if I'm being honest either. What happens is you I don't feel like I've gotten too reliant on it, but you end up with kind of like. At some point you have to work to make sure that it doesn't sound like AI anymore, especially when you're trying to make it, at one point I tried to use it for the post text in our Instagram post. And I'm like, well, that just sounds terrible. None of that sounds like me or anything that I would say. And that translates to everything else. So you got to learn what it can and can't do. And it works for some things and on other things it doesn't. The nice part is when you play with it at this stage, then when other people are using it, so you can spot it really easily because you're like, oh, that person doesn't know how to use it. Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. I hadn't really thought about kind of the dark side, light side, dark side.
Yeah, and if you got 18 people reporting you should probably take a look at it just to make sure they're not doing that to you.
Because of the proprietary stuff that we work with.
Yeah.
Firewall. They actually had to create
our
own AI cloud thing. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what they did with it.
I know my company's trying to do it. They train a bot on its own information. It's a large language model. I'm a nerd, so I understand it, but it's stupid and you don't have to spend your time with it.
Yeah, we'll catch you later on that one because I would love to understand how that thing works.
We can offline.
Yeah. Next time.
So when you go and you're outside, are you mostly just a Jeeper? Do you have any other hobbies outside of that you spend your time getting to with the Jeep?
Well, and this kind of goes back to that time management question. So yeah, to say the least. So out, kind of a byproduct of the military and the Jeeping environment. I love to hunt. I'm a sportsman. I was up until COVID doing some coaching and training when it came to pistols, shotguns, and rifles. So I love to do target shooting and drill shooting like that, kind of 3-gun sports. Not so much anymore, just because I do spend so much time wheeling, but outside of that, it's backpacking, hiking, camping, whatever I can, just so I can, probably like you, just get away from the screen and disconnect and find someplace where I can't even have connectivity to begin with.
My favorite place to be is a place without cell service.
Absolutely. It's, and if you're looking for great ideas, so some military buddies and I, we typically get together every single year towards the end of February, and it's another week-long trip, and we go dog sledding and sleep in the snow up in the Boundary Waters, which to date has one cell tower on the south side of the Boundary Water area. So once you get to the Canadian border, or actually once you get halfway and even closer to the Canadian border, there's nothing. You got a sat phone, and that might work if the battery isn't dead because it's 40 below.
That kind of stuff. Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's again, it kind of my milder adrenaline side, but being able to cross country ski for 40, 50 miles and handle the dogs and load tents and load sleds and go from point A to point B, it's liberating in that sense that you have no technology for 5 days, not even if you wanted it, and you can just be present and focus on where you're at. And to be honest, always in the back of your mind, think about, it's 30 below. I really need to be smart about what I'm doing, so I don't turn into a popsicle.
You got right. Everything is when you turn off all of that noise from the electronic devices and everything else, you're much more in tune and able to tune into those situations, right? So you're much more aware of the shelf road that you're on. You're much more aware of the temperature outside at if it's Arizona and it's in the middle of the day and it's 110 degrees.
Yep.
I think it tunes you in a little bit more, and I know it's kind of a side effect of being out in the backcountry, but I think it's almost the main draw at sometimes. Like, I love the views and I love the rocks, man, but I love just getting away from people.
Yep. I love looking at my phone, seeing it in airplane mode and just having
yeah, forced that way, right? You didn't do anything. I didn't do it on purpose. It just doesn't have any service.
No service. I might as well just put it in airplane mode so I don't kill the battery. And
exactly. That's awesome. Yeah, I can't do that. I'm always mapping trails. I always need that GPS to be pinging. So, because I'm trying to figure out where, when I get home later, I got to figure out where the hell I was. So, like, wait, this is where I was supposed to be then. All right, cool. Yeah, awesome.
Along with GPS, they need a timestamp on it for you.
Oh, they do. They have it all, buddy. I'm telling you. Let me tell you, you haven't lived until you have spent a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon deciphering your Saturday the day before as a line and going, okay, well, where was I? And okay, this says I was here at 2:00, so that makes sense. Yeah, it's what I would tell people is that don't be a trail mapper unless you really have the stomach for it.
Out there, and it doesn't always go as planned. I have a couple of people do that, and it's interesting to see to hear the stories, especially when they do that out here in Arizona. And you wouldn't believe the people that I run into out in the woods in Arizona. It's like, yeah, I would. I've been out there, and it's really being bad is what it is.
Oh yeah, it gets it gets very deliverance very fast in a lot of places.
Absolutely.
And it's terrifying. So
instead of a banjo, you hear a wind chime, and it's kind
of
that's not normal.
And I tell people all the time, like, if you want to clean up garbage while you're on a trail, great. If you see somebody doing bad stuff on a trail and you want to say something nicely to them, go ahead and say something. You're better off. Your safer bet is to just get their license plate and report them back to the Forest Service later, because it's A, B, C, and D is all, they're probably crazy. All of those answers are, they're probably crazy.
Yes. And you can
just be safe out there.
Yeah, you can put it real quick just by looking at what they're in, or if they're just walking. Right, and
yeah. You've got that Hyundai Accent out there in the middle of the forest, and you managed to get it through all those culverts. I've got serious questions about your mental stability.
Yeah, exactly.
Agreed.
Exactly. Are you here to leave this? Do we need to call pickup, or don't burn it? That's all I ask. Don't burn it.
All right, so. So the mishap. Let's talk about the story you shared in your prep, and because I feel like your last comment kind of leads into that. Would you consider the mishap on collateral damage a failure to imagine?
Well, I envisioned myself going up this wall. I'd done it before. And for those that are listening in, collateral damage is one of the more technical trails we have in the Table Mesa area. And it's, what is that? It's out past Upper and Lower Terminator. Or no, excuse me, it's a turnoff before you get there, and you come out around where Anaconda kind of shifts between Terminator and collateral damage. But the end of it is this ginormous wall. It's a ledge and a wall, and you got to put the driver's side up on this wall nice and high to the point where you're literally staring at the ground outside your passenger side. You're trying to get up, I don't know, probably somewhere between 30 and 45 degrees, right? You're getting
right.
It's
very vertical.
Very vertical. Very vertical, and then it's very off camber over to the passenger side. So in this scenario, it'd been dug out just a little bit, because we all know how trails can change from year to year and from week to week, and it just got a little dug out, and I wasn't quite where I wanted to be, and I zigged when I zagged, if you will, and the driver's side came right off the wall, probably 4 feet 5 feet up in the air, and it just came down on this ledge. But previously this ledge was like nice and wide, right? Now it fit right between my front and rear wheel. So when I came down, I just came down right past the slider and right into the B pillar and the driver's side door. Blowing up the mirror too while I was at it. That was the least of my worries. I'm like, that's the cheapest out of that scenario. That's the cheapest that I can fix. But yeah, so
pillar damage is pillar damage.
Yeah, I slammed down and I hit that, and I just kind of paused for a second, and I just knew that I'm like, okay, like I have a really long fuse. I'm like, I joke with my friends, I'm a really nice guy until I'm not. And in this scenario, it was like I had this really short fuse that was lit immediately as soon as the tires started slipping, because I knew what was going to happen. And I just dropped the biggest F-bomb as loud as I possibly could, just going completely forced in my voice. Pretty sure all of Table Mesa heard me. And everybody that was around was kind of like, and we had some camera guys that were there because it was one of the last stops of Great American Crawl, and everybody just went dead silent because they know how anal I am about, the look of my Jeep, and I hate body damage. And it was just like, this was supposed to be a quick pass to get extra content, and here I am. We've got the Jeep in front of me completely blown up and disabled. They had to drag it out, and here I am bouncing off from a rock with my B pillar, and it was all of it coming together, and I just lost it for like that long, and then I was kind of like, it's done. I can't fix it. Somebody hook me up to a winch and get me out of here.
I apologize to those within earshot of me not screaming, and I hope you catch me on a better day. Yeah,
exactly. Because it was. I mean, and everybody was like, "Wow, that's completely out of character for him. Is he okay?" Well, yeah. And my buddy, he just looked around. He's like, "Well, I'm pretty sure he just got some body damage. So no, he's not okay."
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I ran into that same scenario, but obviously on a mountain road here, and last year. Hey, Alyssa's here.
Hi.
It's a familiar face.
And yet. What I would say in that vein real fast is to anybody listening, I think the moral of that story is that when you're done for the day and somebody says to you, "Hey, let's go do this too," don't. Just go home. Go home like you plan to go home. Call it a day. Your brain and your body were ready to go home, and then you told it something different, and now you busted your shit.
100%. And for the love of all that's holy, don't say it's going to be a quick run either, because that's the kiss of death right there.
I know, right?
Like, we're just going to do this. It's real quick. No. I guarantee somebody's going to blow a tire. Somebody's going to blow a U-joint. It's going to be terrible.
I try to tell my wife I'll be home before dark. Hopefully.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
I've got another good one on that one. I was running Highway to Hell the first time. And this is over on the east side of the valley, way out into Florence Junction area. For those listening, if you haven't been in the Phoenix area, definitely come. Give me a holler. I'm more than happy to run you through it. And I should have known it was going to go sideways that day when we pulled up to the first obstacle. And it's, off to the left line is this like big wedge kind of scenario like so. And there's a 4Runner just buried in it. And he's still trying to work it free, even though, we find out that he's already blown out the passenger side U-joint. So we're like, dude, stop. He's like, no, one more try. We're like, no, that's where it goes wrong. And then you hear bang, and he blew out his drive shaft.
Oh.
So 2 hours later, we actually started the trail. And we had to get a winch up above to pull him off the wall and a winch behind him to pull him out. And then we actually got to run the trail, which took no time at all. But I mean, it was, I think it was like 5:30 or 6 o'clock, and this is winter months, right? And I finally have reception, and I see like 18 messages from my wife, like, "Where are you? Are you okay?" It was supposed to be quick. We were supposed to be home by like 2 or 3 o'clock, and I'm like, I'm not even back to the trailer at 5 or 5:30 or something like that. So I kind of near for.
And see, it's part of the reason why I got a satellite messenger with 2A. I don't send a whole lot of messages, but I send enough. Like, just I'm fine. I'll be home soon. A lot of that.
I should probably consider that.
So not to be an advertisement for it, but I'm a big solo wheeler, and I'm because of mapping and a lot of other reasons, and also I'm not doing kind of the hardcore stuff that you guys are doing on a regular basis. But I have a satellite messenger, and one of the things that it's $15 a month, and the unit was a one-time investment, so it's great peace of mind, and it's good. You get an SOS button. I got the SAR on there and everything else, so. It's relatively inexpensive these days.
Hey, for a former life search and rescue guy, those are some of the best inventions. And shame on me for not having one. I just usually keep a handheld radio and usually 3 other friends that can help me drag something home.
Well, that's the thing is you're more often than not, you're probably going out there with somebody, and somebody may or may not have more ways to get a communication. At the very least, somebody else can get you out of there, right? For folks like myself, and because I get beaten up for it all the time. So it's to bring it up that there's LA Messenger involved there.
Yeah. Well, it's tough, it's cumbersome, and that's a lot of overhead, right? To get 2 people with 2 rigs out there, that's kind of a business decision. And there's safety measures out there, just like you had, a 2-way pager. You can hit somebody from anywhere.
Yeah, it's like go prepared. So I think is what our thing is anyway.
Yes, amen to that.
So, Alyssa, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah.
How are both of you? Yeah,
good. So you guys knew each other, so we bridged this gap, so that's awesome. So we've just been shooting the shit for 45, almost an hour now. Yeah. Damn, man.
Oh, you have? Oh, sorry. I thought it started at 6. I know it was 5.
Oh.
No,
sorry.
it's okay. It's no, you're fine. It was one of those ones too where it was even I thought it was going to be at the time you thought, Alyssa, because that's normally the time we record. And then Jen said to me, "Isn't your thing at 6 o'clock my time?" And I was like, "No, I don't think so." And I look at my calendar. Oh yeah, sure enough, it is. I should go downstairs and get that taken care of.
Yeah. That was my bad too, because I scheduled it at 6 at first, and then I realized that my wife was flying to and from Boise and getting in tonight, so I've got to run to the airport and pick her up. So I was like, I'm going to be in the middle of a podcast when she's landing. This is not going to go well.
Oh no! Oh shoot!
Yeah, exactly.
I could have gotten her.
Do you need to go? Like, are you?
Sorry. You should have asked me.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
No, I'm good for a little while longer. So she doesn't hit the ground till 6:30ish, I think. So at least if her flight's
okay.
So
awesome. All right. Well, we'll try to get a few more in here then. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Don't feel bad, Alyssa. It's all good. Like it's the hardest part of this podcast has been time zones.
Yeah.
Like and getting that worked out amongst everybody and making sure everybody's on the same page. So don't feel bad about that.
Hey, and it's not just the podcast, JD. I run into that with work all the time, man. I gave up. I don't put anything in Arizona time anymore. It's always Pacific, and because Outlook gets all screwy when everything changes time zones and we don't. So no.
Well, luckily, our headquarters is here in Denver, so everybody kind of has to bend to our will, and it's quite nice. Yeah, that's. But I'd be happier if we all did military time, if I'm being honest, though. But that's just me, and my wife tells me that I'm insane. So, you people in your military time, it's fun. It's good times. But it's the best way to keep something from her.
I always tell it to my wife too. I was like, anything in the afternoon, just subtract 12, and she's like, no. I'm not doing the math.
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to do math to have to tell what time.
It's 1700. It's 5 p.m. This is no big deal. She's like, well, you were in the military for 8 years. I'm like, well, I've also been in medicine for 30 years. So
Well, you can tell your wife I wasn't in the military, and I love military time because it's the best way to keep that shit clear. So, all right. Yeah. Alyssa, do you have hardcore feelings on military time either way?
I can't do it either.
That's awesome.
I always suggest go for immersion and switch all the clocks in the house and the cars. And
we'll never know.
I say that.
She's just said, "I'll never know." Yeah. She accepted your idea, processed it, and then rejected it. It's not happening for me.
I won't be. I'll either be super late or super early to things. It won't. it won't work.
And she'll spend like a month before she's like, look, I can't do this anymore. Mortgage is late. I can't.
There's no way I'm going to meet you at 6 a.m. No, it's 1800.
No.
Evening. It's happy hour.
Amazing. All right. Well, let's see here. What else do I have on my list of things that I should bug you about? What if you had a piece of advice for somebody who was getting into off-roading for the first time, whether it be about rigs or places they go or just about the sport in general? What would that piece of advice be?
Piece of advice. Best one I can offer is, for the person that's getting into it and they just bought their Jeep, their Toyota, whatever it is that they're going to build out, put a build sheet together and try not to do anything to it for the first year. Just wheel it, do whatever it's capable for the first year. Talk to everybody you can, figure out what you like and don't like, make a build sheet. I'm a firm believer in buy once, cry once. I loved what I had on my LJ, but I wanted much more. I wanted something that I could grow into. And I have a build sheet for it. I have a build sheet for the next truck that I'm going to be building. Once I sell my tow rig, I'm going to build a big tow rig, overland rig. But get a build sheet together. Figure out what you like, what you don't like. You're going to change it like 80 times. And at least you're not doing it with parts over and over and over.
Yeah. I mean, I have a whole vehicle that I can say I don't have anymore because it just got upgraded outside of what I wanted to do with it.
Yeah.
And it's because I didn't know. I took bad advice.
Yeah. I mean,
so,
honestly, originally my Jeep build was, more so for the backpacking side of it. I wanted to get out to the very end of the trail and go further and then backpack out from there, just to really be out in the middle of nowhere. And while we still do that from time to time, it's a purpose-built rock crawler, like I said, Ultra 4 car now. It's really, but it's evolved, right? It's something that I grew into because I overbuilt it when I started.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think the idea was to overbuild it though. Like you had that part of your process.
I wanted to build it once. Well, I mean, truth be told, I think Alyssa knows this story. My wife gave me very explicit instructions. She's like, you have a year to build it. This is not going to be a 5-year project like your LJ.
Did you have to sign a contract, sir?
Yeah, it's a verbal contract.
Okay, yeah, binding in every state that you have to live in, right?
Yeah, and then it turned into, it was like, well, I'm not going to have the money to do the engine. She's like, well, I'll give you a stay on the engine. She's like, but you got to have that one done within 1 year of whenever you started too. She's like, we're not going to do this whole build it, change it, do whatever anymore. I'm like, okay. If I could do that every 5 years, then great. But I mean, there's not a whole lot I can do to this Jeep anymore. I mean, I cut off everything factory from the frame, and I've cut up the body into to fit on the frame again. So it's, it is what it is. But like I said, I would just say,
did you
build sheets? Get yourself a build sheet. Know what you're going to spend on it, and and know what you're going to do it for. Build it for that, and think of the other stuff that you might enjoy as you go along the ride that you need to incorporate into it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get into it and they make bad decisions because they think they have to get whatever they saw latest on Instagram. And, I think I will tell you as a person who has, quote unquote influenced on people when they hit me up on the side, like, what are you doing with it? Like, why do you want that solar panel that I have on my hood? Because I'm going to make sure I want to make sure that you actually need that in your day to day.
Right.
And I don't think enough people do that.
If they're going after Red Arc and Goal Zero could actually really suit their needs, or a Jackery could suit their needs, then hey, there's no reason to dump thousands into a Red Arc. I mean, it's a great product, don't get me wrong, but if you're not using it to some extent, if you're not going to be off grid for a week or 2 weeks, there's no real reason to do that.
Then maybe you don't need the $1,000 unit.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. You use your dollars wisely is probably the big takeaway from that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay,
all right.
Buy once, cry once kind of deal.
That's I think that one's going to stick out. I feel like at the end of this episode, I'm going to have a highlight, and that's going to be the word or the phrase that I go back to. It's good. So, and I loved asking this question lately, and I feel I'm trying not to like make it sound controversial, and it's not. I'm curious about what. So we all have a certain level of following on Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is that we're talking about. And so to that end, I like to ask the question of both, what do you think is wrong with that's currently within our social media off-roading community, and also what do you think is going right? And you don't have to like go into every detail about everything, but we can, yeah.
Going wrong, going right. Going wrong, I think there was a big break that put people at a disadvantage in the last couple of years of trying to get the exposure that they were going for. Going wrong, I think reels kind of turning into commercials rather than short stories. That's kind of where I am. I mean, to be honest, when I started into Instagram, I mean, I was late to the game with Facebook. I didn't get into Facebook until 2013. And I did it so I could run a Tough Mudder with some buddies that actually lived in Denver. You know, it's all going back to Denver today.
I'm telling you, it all comes back to Denver, baby.
So, you know, so I was late to that game. And then when I got the Jeep, it was kind of a, you know, hey, you should consider doing this. And, you know, maybe it's whatever. I was like, okay, well, it's like an online photo album for my Jeep and all the Jeep adventures. Cool. I could get beyond that. You know, I don't have to use up my own memory doing anything. I can just kind of have fun with it. And,
right.
You know, you kind of gain some traction or whatever. And then, you know, my account got hacked. So I had to start over again about a year and a half into it. And at that point, you know, IG was kind of screwing around with all the algorithms, and it was just kind of making it hard to get one of those one-hit wonders, you know, win that kind of IG lottery and go from 5,000 to 100,000 people or 100,000 followers. So I think there's like a gamification side of it that it's kind of annoying, I would say, if I could put it into that bad scenario.
I think too many people pandering to the algorithm as opposed to just trying to post good content.
Yeah, that'd be a great way to put it. That would be a great way to put it, because it's, you know, and I mean, if you've looked at any of my content, it really still is just my Jeep adventures, and maybe I'm highlighting some products that I'm using in it. But it's not really the focus of what I'm doing. Like, I like to share the brand partners because I'm not going to put garbage on my Jeep. I like my Jeep. I want quality parts that last. So I don't have a problem talking about those. You know, if you tell me something and I don't like it, I'm going to tell you, and I'm not going to socialize it. You know, it's, I like to call myself an aggressive product tester.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. If I'm using it and I like it, you know, I've beaten the hell out of it.
Exactly. You know, and that I would say kind of transcends into the good side, where I have been able to make some really amazing contacts and some amazing friends like yourself, like Alyssa, through this, you know, people that I've been able to go do happy hour with, or meet up in Denver the next time I'm in Denver, or, you know, like Alyssa and I, we've done dinners with her and I and my wife, or she's been up for barbecues and stuff like that in the area. I never would have met her otherwise. You know, I've friends on the East Coast that travel out to, you know, I've got a friend's Jeep in my garage right now because she's in and out for a couple different events. And it's like, hey, yeah, go ahead and keep it here. You know, we're cool with it. You got to, you know, we'll keep it inside so nobody messes with it. And, you know, I never would have met her that way, or friends that I have, even friends back up in Oregon that I never knew existed because they were in the Jeeping community, which was, you know, really tight knit up there. Almost, I wouldn't say a clique, but it's a very, very tight knit community up there. Like, you know people if you're in those circles. So that would be a right thing. I love that side. I love that kind of social side of it, and meeting people and talking about builds and what do you like, what do you not like, and educating myself, and then having the opportunity to educate or influence, whatever word you want to use, for others when they ask about, you know, why did you build it that way? Well, because these parts I knew I could beat the snot out of, and they're not going to break on me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think the purpose of asking that question is just to get, I think it's a great way to kind of get a vibe check at, you know, today and the current 2024 parlance of where we're at. But I also think it's great because I have a feeling that when I start to compile these at some point in the future, I'm going to ask this question over and over again. And I think always that the the worst thing is going to change, right? Those things that people identify as being the worst part of Instagram or whatever else, I think that'll change. But I think because you're now the second or third or fourth person that has said that's the community. That's their big thing, that's their big part that they really think is the good part of it. And I think that's what's going to be the good part about that question. I think that's how it's going to play out.
Well, and I think it's something that's, I mean, obviously we get kind of thrown into niche areas, right? Each thing kind of has its own little niche area. But, even when we explore around and we surf because it was suggested for us or something like that, you start looking at it and it's like, I see things that I wouldn't want to be a part of in those other areas. Like I love the overarching automotive community, right? It's huge. It's knowledge sharing. It's a lot of friendships. It's a lot of harassing each other and having fun. And you just amplify it as you get down into overlanding and wheeling. And, I would love to see a bigger bridge between overlanding and wheeling, the rock landing space, if you will, because from the laid back side of me, that's probably the best area that I would fit would be rock landing, camping while I'm out rock crawling. Ultra 4 is really kind of what I am passionate about because it feeds my adrenaline. But yeah, as it gets into the smaller niches, the more and more I love what I see in there, and the more you see a sense of community. Somebody gets hurt, everybody freaks out. What can we do to help? Somebody gets married or has a kid, everybody flips out. Congratulations. It's just it reiterates like the nice side of humanity. So, but like I said, you get out of that space and you can see the horrific side if you want to. I tend to skip it or report it.
Fair enough.
I don't want to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think to your point too, I think that one of the big things and part of the reason why I started the show was because I wanted to kind of help bridge that gap from the rock crawlers and the overlanders and the weekenders and the, whatever anders that you want to call yourself in the off-roading community to describe yourself as, what kind of trails you like to do. But that was the purpose. Like I feel like there is a lot of that. I was listening to other shows and some other things going on, and it's very niche, it's very siloed, and I feel like we can have these larger conversations. If we can have these larger conversations at Trail Hero and at EJS and at all these events amongst these people, we should be able to have them in these other spaces too. So, yeah, I think it's getting there. I think we're getting better as a community.
Oh, absolutely, and I would even say, much to Rich Klein's. To his innovation with Trail Hero, like I he's a great guy. I've met him so many times and love working with him. But his incorporation of the overlanding community at Trail Hero was probably one of the best decisions that he ever made. Again, it kind of reiterated that we're all in the same community. We're all off road. It's just varying degrees of off road.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's good stuff though. All right. Well, I now feel like I've taken enough of your time, but I have one last question for you, and then I'll give it to Alyssa if she's got a question for you. But my last question is a softball, man. You got a favorite trail? Like if you had to run one more trail and you can only run that one trail.
One trail, Rubicon in my own Jeep.
All right, there you go. That was easy.
Yep.
I like that. It wasn't a whole lot of hesitation there. It was just a straightforward answer. I liked it.
Yep. I've ran it once. It was not in my Jeep. It was actually the owner of Generate's Jeep. He let me borrow it. It was not, it was the same exact build, but it was just not the same experience. I want to do it in my Jeep.
Oh, I can understand that totally. All right. Well, cool. All right. Well, Alyssa, do you have any questions for Cord?
I don't. No, I'm sorry.
You just know him too well. That's why the problem. No, you're good.
And I don't know what you already covered, so I'm sorry. No.
Oh, you're fine. It's all good. It's all good. I appreciate it. So, Cord, thank you very much for coming on the show. We, like I said, I really want to bridge the gap between different, quote unquote, genres, if you will, of off-roading. And I think shows like this are a good way to do it. So you've been a guest now, so you're welcome back anytime for our live recordings, which we're doing currently on Mondays. So if you got a Monday night where you'd like to sit someplace with a beer and join us, you're more than welcome. And then we just kind of shoot the crap. The focus isn't on you. Then you don't have to feel like the spotlight's on you. You just sit there and enjoy yourself while you're sitting around a campfire.
Even better. And if I can
Yeah,
get
awesome.
the camera off, I'm going to be seriously happy.
Oh, you could. I mean, no one's gonna. We probably wouldn't harass you except to turn it on once in a while, just to say hey.
Otherwise,
Awesome. Well, thanks.
over in the background. That's me.
Exactly. All right, man. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. If you are out there in Radioland, please check him out, Bombshell JKU. I will link to your account, your Instagram account. You don't have a website, do you?
No, sir. I try to keep it simple.
So did I, but I realized I needed a website for a whole bunch of other crap. But anyway, so just check out Bombshell JKU. If you can't find him, well, you should be able to find him through the link on this page or on this episode. What am I talking about? All right, let's get out of here. I can't form a sentence anymore. Thank you very much, Cord.
No, thank you, JD.
We'll see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
All right, we'll see you guys next time at the Trailhead. Yep, we'll see you guys next time at the Trailhead.